Time now for our weekly analysis of US politics. Professor Ed Blakely is here. He's US political commentator and former White House staffer. Ed, good morning.
Good morning.
Let's start with a win for the president, tax. It's a big win, huge tax cuts for both corporations, but also individuals as well, although there is a time frame. I think they're going to have to reset that after a few years, aren't they?
Yes, but that doesn't mean it'll go away because that's never happened. So there is a time frame. The 1.5 trillion creates a problem. If you go over that amount, you break a congressional regulation. It's not a law, it's a regulation. They don't want to go over that, so there are time frames when they cut it back in order to stay within that, but it's probably not going to happen. The bigger thing that's going to happen is a lot of people will get their tax bills, particularly in big states, and they will go up, and they are in the middle class. For the Democrats, this is a win also, because when those tax bills are opened, then people will say, wait a minute, this guy was running for us, and it seems like it's against us. So we may see a repeat of Alabama and other places.
Because there was a lot of criticism of the tax that it was one for the wealthy, more so than those in the lower or middle class.
For the corporations, it's a big drop, 35% to 21%. That's a big drop. For the wealthiest people, they also get a drop of about 10 or 12%. For the middle class, there's no drop at all, and there may be a penalty of 1 or 2% because you don't get the deductions from your home loans or for the tax you pay to local governments. So this is a big deal, and the members of Congress are in the biggest states because they're apportioned by numbers. So for the Republicans, this could be bad news. 56% of the people are against this tax move. 56%. That's a big number.
Well, obviously the corporations will be welcoming this. It's a huge tax cut. What's the likely effect as far as economic stimulation is concerned?
Well, they're now talking about infrastructure. And the way they're talking about infrastructure is that it'll be public-private partnerships. That means more money for the big corporations to build bridges and the like. But these are likely to be toll roads and things where people have to pay for them over the years. That's what Donald Trump likes. It'll be a massive profit for the private sector. And, you know, a road's a road. People do like to see their roads. They do like to see their trains and the like. But when you get close to your pocketbook, these things seem to dissipate. Nobody wants to pay to go on the road. So we'll see how this plays out. But for the short run, the Republicans are really going to have to sell this because no one who's in the middle class will see an advantage.
This week we also saw more fallout from the decision to recognise Jerusalem as Israel's capital by the US. We saw the UN involved this week, and it was essentially Donald Trump and then the rest of the UN on the other side. There was a real divide there.
A huge divide. 160 countries or something like that voted against the United States. That has never happened before. And what happened afterward was worse. Nikki Haley threatened the world powers who voted against the United States. That's not the path to leadership.
Well, in fact, that threat came before the vote, saying, if you vote against us, then we'll cut your aid.
And she made it again afterward. And through a party to which they were not invited. Only the people who voted for the United States or abstained were invited to the party. I don't think very many people are going to show up to this party.
Well, how likely is it that the Trump administration will follow through on that threat and actually cut aid to those countries that voted against them?
First of all, the Trump administration doesn't give that aid. The Congress does. And the Congress is very unlikely to cut off aid to countries that are particularly on the balance, where Al-Qaeda could come in, or there's a weakening or softening of U.S. interests. And trade's involved here, too. People can change their trade routes and things like this. That would hurt the United States. So there'd be a tit-for-tat. I don't think this is going to happen, but it's nasty news. And it makes Trump's travel and everything the United States says about peace sound ridiculous. So the United States is lowered in the world opinion by this move.
It did see the US become quite isolated from everyone else, but Donald Trump doesn't seem to fear isolation, does he?
Well, one could say something interesting about that because there are things called isolation cells, but he is living in his own cocoon. that 34% has not gone up. It hasn't gone down much. But they sat on their hands in Alabama. If he doesn't get more for them, there will be real trouble. What if they lose both houses? Then he is in danger of being impeached, because the Democrats could and would do that. He's also in danger of not being able to do much. And he's also in danger of the Mueller investigation going really viral. So these are very troubling headwinds for him. The Republicans are very much divided now on what course they take. Do they take the soft approach, appeal to the Americans, or appeal to the base? It's going to be very interesting to watch in the coming year.
Ed, you have been a strong Trump critic since he's assumed office. Are you surprised that he's still in office? Because I know there has been much speculation about whether he would survive. You talk about possible impeachment still forthcoming.
Yes, I'm surprised he's still in office. I am. I thought he would resign by now. I didn't know the tax cuts would even go through. That was very narrow, 1 or 2 votes. I think he's still in office because there isn't an alternative. Now there's a big threat out there, North Korea. And people who are sensitive to political moves are looking at that. The other threat that he's sure to use is the threat to pardon his people and create a constitutional crisis. This is also a big threat. So I think the Democrats would like to see him in until next November.
Particularly pardoning people in regards to the Russia investigation.
Yes. And that investigation is going full steam.
Do you expect anything major to happen with that over the Christmas period?
Not over the Christmas period, but I think by the end of January, Jared Kushner will be indicted.
And what about potential for firing Robert Mueller?
Well, that is a real potential. The president has ways to do this. One of them is to remove Sessions and then go out that way. The other is to use his president's appointment power to take that appointment away and force the Congress and the courts to put it back. That would be a big constitutional crisis. But remember, Nixon did that.
Would there be concerns about how that would look, though?
Oh, there would, but Nixon did it. And he seems to be following that playbook. He's asking that Mueller give him exemption from all this business. In other words, he's willing to turn over all his people if he can get away himself. That's what the lawyers are meeting about.
Ed, when we look ahead to next year, what are the possibilities for Donald Trump as far as his legislative agenda is concerned? He's trying to follow through on those promises he's made during his election campaign. What is realistic for him, do you think, given how he's placed and the makeup of Congress?
Well, the infrastructure bill will come out. That's been a hard one. The question is how you do the infrastructure. Do you do it from the Treasury or the public-private partnerships? That will get some traction because Democrats don't want potholes or bad bridges. That'll get some traction. The Democrats will try to delay that and put more public money in it and cut back on some of the tax cuts to get that. So that'll be the big fight. But I think he has a chance there of getting something moving. It will not happen during the year.
Well, you talk about infrastructure. What about the wall? They've been building prototypes. Will construction start, do you believe?
I think on those areas where there was a wall already, they'll be repaired, but a new wall is very unlikely. Look, 1.5 trillion, I can't count that high. And every penny counts after that. We can't afford more debt to build a wall. And I don't think the Congress has any appetite for it.
And there are some demographics next year gearing up in the US to try and defeat Donald Trump in 2018, given that his popularity, as you mentioned, is plummeting. Who would make up that group?
Well, remember, this is a congressional election for the lower house. That's mostly in the big cities. The black vote is the biggest, most important vote. They voted in Alabama 98% for the incumbent. They will vote 98, 99% in all these districts. So that's the big one. Women, another one, particularly suburban women. Suburban women have been a stronghold for the Republicans. They are peeling away in droves. So I think those two demographics are going to be important, and the youth have come alive again. So this is going to be an Obama-type thing. In Alabama, the vote by blacks was bigger than the vote for Obama. That is remarkable.
Ed Blakely, it has been a fascinating year in US politics. No doubt next year will be just as fascinating. Thanks very much
I
for
notice
your...
you're wearing red, white, and blue.
Yes.
So
Well,
how
we were
appropriate.
thinking more Christmas than
yeah.
perhaps American politics. But Ed Blakely, thanks very much. Best wishes to you.
Thank you.
Happy Christmas.